First up, Philadelphia union walkout goes poorly as residents in Philadelphia don't even notice the extra trash. Next up, has Bezos doomed the human race by giving the aliens our data on cow farts? Next, in an effort to speed up tariff negotiations, after securing 0 deals in the promised 90 days, Trump turns to a new technology, letters, physical mail on an airplane, to speed up the stalled process by sending it over waters. Next, Trump tells the press he does not have the time to address the Epstein situation.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. Do you want to waste the time?
He then goes on addressing the most important issue facing our nation, which is redecorating the White House.
It's really become quite a beautiful place. I don't want to tell this, Marco pointed it out. I was going to leave the clock. So as president, you have the power. If I go into the State Department or Department of Commerce or Treasury, if I see anything that I like, I'm allowed to take it. Do you believe this? So I'm in Marco's, I see this gorgeous clock, grandfather clock, and there it is. I said, Marco. He didn't know about it. I had to read him the rule and regulation. I said, Marco, I love this clock. Look at it. It's beautiful. He said, what clock? I said, the clock that's in the other room is incredible, and nobody gets to see it there. Marco, I tried to talk him into it first, and it sort of worked, and then I had to use a little more. I said, I'd love to take that clock out and put it in the cabinet room. He said, no, are you serious? I said, Marco, I have the right to do it, Marco. And he said,
and lastly, we interview the last man to rape Jeffrey Epstein.
It's your daily dose of misinformation, pulled from a lately hemorrhoided asshole. It's today's Run Your Mouth!
People try and tell you what you gotta do. Don't listen to them unless you think it's true. Follow your heart and your dreams. Follow your heart and your dreams.
Don't pay attention to that volcano. I know it exploded and you just asked me about it, but nobody cares. It's not important. I know you guys are all wondering if you're doomed and if it's going to touch your kids, but don't pay attention to the volcano. I know you just asked me, but nobody cares. We're going to move on. Nobody is going to talk about that volcano. It's not important. We're not going to discuss it, all right? You guys pissed? You guys pissed? They didn't even have the dignity to lie to us. They did not even have the dignity to lie. Because that's really what lying is. Lying is about when you care for other people and you care for them so deeply that you know not to tell them the truth because you understand that the truth would be painful. And so out of respect, you take the time and you figure out how you can lie to them so that you won't hurt their feelings. And Donald Trump did not care about us enough to actually lie to us. He doesn't even care to spin up a story. He doesn't care to explain what was actually going on with that Jeffrey Epstein guy all along. It's just a simple, clean brush under the rug. Listen, we're getting back to business. We've got letters to send out. I was supposed to get you 90 deals in 90 days. We're at 0 and over 90. So we've got to we have to refocus our attention into driving up American prices and pretending like we're bringing back American manufacturing while the companies that can actually lobby come into my office and explain to me why that policy doesn't work for them. Listen, it's very easy to avoid Donald Trump's tariffs and having your business being derailed which is you just have to figure out how to actually tell him that his plan doesn't work. But if you're out there and you don't have a large enough business that you're able to get an audience with Donald Trump and explain to him, hey, listen, you know, this tariff thing is going to kill my business and that's going to be bad for America. If you can't actually get into the office and explain that to him, then your company will pay the price. But Donald Trump, he's got to refocus his efforts. Remember, Iran, it's now off the table. We never have to hear about it again. We never have to consider it again. The cancer's in remission. And even Netanyahu feels good about the cancer treatment at the moment. And so now, don't talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Let's not talk about the deep state. Let's get back to the homework, which is driving up prices in the American economy. Anyways, it's nice to have everybody back with us. It's nice to actually be in studio for an episode. And guys, what an epic run of porches. Firstly, I know I'm coming off a little bit combative today, but I want to let you guys know I actually fixed my Judaism. I'm a very cool guy now. I'm a very down-to-earth person. I went surfing, and what a blast surfing is. You know, I have ADD, and almost everything instantly infuriates me, and I'm annoyed by it. But surfing was a good time. And I went to go take that first wave, instantly tumbled and hit my head right in the back of my head, right into the bottom of the ocean. And I promise you guys, I'm fixed. And listen, you know, this Epstein thing might be so annoying that I'm going to hoot and holler about it. But just to explain to you guys just how fixed I am, you know how I usually like to yell about airplanes? The other day, I was on an airplane, and I watched a guy for 45 minutes trim his nose hairs, and I wasn't bothered by it. And that's the power of hitting the back of your head while surfing, is that you can watch something that absolutely disgusting that would usually make you want to figure out how you can distance yourself from the human race, how you can figure out amassing enough power that you can join the elites and have no care for other human beings because perhaps they don't deserve it because they're such reprehensible and vile creatures. But in that moment, after hitting my head surfing, I was unbothered. I just watched the guy. I actually was curious to see his technique and artistry, that he was able to use the screen in front of him on the plane to figure out how to properly trim his nose hairs. I was impressed, okay? And then also, what an epic run of porches down in Texas. Thank you for everybody that came out. Listen, not all porches are created equal. They're all fun, but they're not equal. And there's every year there's like top 5 porches. I never know which ones to predict are going to be the most fun. Very often, they're not the ones that I was expecting. One of the biggest indicators is if I'm staying by the host and then I can get recklessly hammered. But in Granbury, Texas, I promised you guys a fireworks show, and I didn't know how much fireworks we had, and I decided to stop at a fireworks show. I have a fireworks store, and I've never actually purchased fireworks before in my life, and I instantly turned 12 years old, where I looked at how much money was in ticket sales and just decided I'm spending all of that on fireworks, which are not cheap. Really are not cheap. Go buy yourself a box of fireworks for your own backyard. I mean, compared to my ticket price, geez. I mean, the fireworks are not cheap, but they had everything. I was buying the big Roman candles. I was buying the small Roman candles. I bought this double pack thing that was supposed to be this big spectacular show. I picked up the M80s that were on the shelves, and then I asked the lady where the better M80s were, and she's like, no, you need these. I didn't actually end up exploding anything. I was really had some high hopes for blowing shit up. But my God, you know, watching fireworks is not as much fun as being right underneath them and setting them off. And this was the highlight for me. Firstly, it was just a great time in Granbury. We had a great show. We had a good time boozing it up. Some people in OKC handed me some joints. Some cool people came out. It was a fun evening all around. Enjoyed myself some 4th of July. And usually, not that I'm a healthy person, but for some reason at one point, I had heard some article about how nitrates will kill you, and I stopped eating hot dogs. But then I went on to eat all the donuts and every other processed meat in the entire world. But for some reason, I was once scanning the radio, NPR, and it just caught me at the right time where they were doing a whole thing about how hot dogs will kill you. And I was like, well, I can't eat hot dogs anymore. And I might as well abandon that policy because none of the other bullshit that I eat is consistent with my non-eating with hot dogs. But every once in a while, you know, if you got a special occasion going, I'll get some hot dogs going. And I'll throw this out there. This is not a traditional way to eat hot dogs, but my God, was it delicious. They had some guac there, and I just guacked up my bun. I shoved the hot dog in there. It was a good time. Anyways, back to the fireworks. We also got to shoot guns. That was a good time. But I bought this like $140 double pack of fireworks that was supposed to be single fuse, and then the whole thing goes up and it's like 600 shots or something. Big spectacular show for the 20 people that came out for Granbury Porch Store, right? And the second box didn't go off. And so then, of course, as a drunken idiot, I was just standing on the side trying to fire the Roman candles into the box to see if I could make the rest of the things go off. And I was unsuccessful because I'd already fired off too many Roman candles. And then it was almost like if you ever played like that tank warfare game where you're trying to figure out the exact arcs that you can hit the other guy's tank. And so I'm trying to figure out like the arc of how to fire the Roman candles into the box of fireworks. And I was not successful, but I think that's the funnest time anyone's had on a 4th of July. So thank you for everyone that came out. Next 2 weekends, I'm opening up for Dave Smith. We're out in Denver, and then we were out in Cleveland. And then I am back to porching. I still have some dates that I have to list. I just haven't been home long enough to do it. But I'll get it done. But here's the ones that are coming up. Doylestown, PA. That was fantastic last year. Brewston Mills, West Virginia. I have to make sure we actually have the right address this year because last year I posted the wrong address for a creepy house in the woods. But that was a fun and weird show in the absolute backwoods of Brewston Mills, West Virginia. But it opened up. It's like you went down a creepy road and then it opened up to just pure beauty and a nice sunset, moonshine, good time all around. Then Johnston, PA. Back in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, people showed up with a jar of mushrooms. I shouldn't say this online. Anyways, that was a fun show. And then back to Memphis, Tennessee, Bon Aqua, Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is back by Shawnee and Ted and their new bar, Missouri, Pekin, Indiana, Cincinnati, Ohio. Oh, that's the one that's that one. Anyways, Wadsworth, Ohio. Go to porchstore.com. There's a whole bunch of dates up there. All right, show brought to you by YoCratom.com. Home of the $60 kilo. Only place in the entire world you can get an entire kilo of Kratom for just $60. Let's take some comments, starting with John Popik. Ukraine getting more Webstein's, Eston file buried, BBB passed, and debt ceiling raised. God damn, we're winning. There you go. That's a fairly accurate summary of where we are at the moment. JT asks, ironic how they bombed Iran's nuclear medical enrichment site, and BB just referred to it as a tumor. All right, fair enough. John Popik, hitting your head and becoming numb to these things is the new age lobotomy. I know. If I could somehow offer surf classes where you can take a perfect tumble and hit the back of your head, not into a rock, but into the sand of the oceans, that you can just be at peace with the universe, that would be nice. Fooball, is this live or pre-recorded? Totally live. I'm here. I'm with you now. Put out your hand, and it's like we're holding hands together. Did you feel that? Put out your hand. There you go. That's or you can put your dick there too. But I was going for your hand. I was trying to have a nice moment where it's like you and I were holding hands together to showcase the fact that we are currently live. John Popik. The night trace thing stopped me from eating brats for a while. Meanwhile, I rip my vape pen like there's no tomorrow. Like you're holding on for dear life. I know. I'm the same way. Stormtrooper, Robbie and Dave have been killing it this week. Keep it up, guys. Thank you, sir. All right, let's get into the news. Let's start with this one right here, which is obviously, you know, I think all of us were a little bit disappointed with the walk back from the most transparent administration ever, from grand tales as if they were going to actually clean up and drain the swamp. And obviously, I think we were all very interested in the Epstein story because it's right there. It seemingly is so damning that the entire public would support cleaning up the deep state and not having them potentially, I guess, molest kids so that they can have blackmail on other world elites and world leaders. And so it was a promising storyline because it seemed like if anyone actually wanted to delve in and showcase the thing, the entire American public would actually be against government and would be against the deep state agencies. And so it's become apparent that the Donald Trump administration is not interested in giving us any of the details from that storyline, and nor are they even interested in lying to us anymore and pretending like they're looking into it or pretending like the information might come out later or maybe arresting a couple people. Maybe there were a couple people that they had blackmail on, that the blackmail was no longer worthwhile, so they could have exposed that and taken out a few of those individuals and then let everyone else go off scot-clean. They could have at least pretended to us to have a little bit more interest or rode out the clock and kept going till the end. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're going to have it. Oh, I guess we're done here. But they decided to channel. We don't care. We're not going after these people. We are closing the books on this storyline. Oh, deep state, we are here to work with you. We're a good administration. Who do you need us to bomb next? What wars do you need us to fund? I'm all for funding wars. So that's where we're at the moment. But this administration, they do enjoy keeping the little volleyballs or beach balls up in the air and pretending like there's still an interest in these storylines, like there's still an interest in cleaning up the deep state. And so the day after they close out the books on the Epstein story, which is the most interesting story, the most potentially damning story, the most cleansing story, if we actually delved in, while they're closing the books on that, they're apparently launching a new investigation on John Brennan and James Comey. Now, obviously, John Brennan and James Comey, they did Donald Trump dirty in the first administration and spying on him, on spinning tales of Russia collusion. And then I'm sure that they also had some involvement in the Hunter Biden laptop scandal of pretending like it wasn't real and then censoring all of the internet and saying, you know, our intelligence agencies are saying this has all the hallmarks of Russian misinformation. And so it could be that, you know, these people are so outside of the new winning coalition that it's kind of like when you go after corruption in China. If somebody is no longer in line with the, you know, the other people who are climbing the ranks, then all of a sudden they get hit with the corruption charges of what everyone is doing. And so now, in terms of them trying to pretend like they actually are interested in cleaning up the deep state, we have a new investigation of James Comey and John Brennan related to the Russiagate storyline, and also probably, I guess, spying on Donald Trump and the whole Pfizer warrants, which, I mean, like, it's nice, but it doesn't make me feel as good as if you actually went after what happened during COVID and why Fauci did what Fauci did to all of us when he shut down the country. And it doesn't make me feel better than, you know, us fighting wars on behalf of the deep state to make profits for private individuals or for other countries and other countries' interests and not our own interests. And it certainly doesn't make me feel better than if you actually wanted to look into the Epstein storyline. But here they are, a day after they tell you, does anyone care about the Epstein thing anymore? They let you know, no, we are serious about this corruption thing. And that's why we're going to launch an investigation into Brennan and Comey. And we'll see where that goes. But hey, listen, maybe they are the enemies of Donald Trump. And so perhaps he actually wants to unwind that corruption. In other news, firstly, tell me that AOC wasn't made out of the Barack Obama lab of clones. Take a look at that picture and tell me that that does not look like trans Barack Obama. Take a look at young AOC and tell me that's not Obama's face. But just, you know, before we completely rail on the Republicans, sometimes it's a good idea to remind ourselves just how stupid the Democrats are. And the environment that we live in, at least amongst the Democrats, it's like every reality TV show where you got to have that compelling storyline. You got to get on there and talk about how everyone in your family died of cancer, how you were thrown out of your house as a kid, how you had to walk through the woods and eat bugs and turn tree bark into shoes just so that you could show up to school and not be able to afford the textbooks, and you were dyslexic, but then you were cheating off the other kids, and then you realized school wasn't for you, so you went back to the woods. But my God, did you discover that you could sing with the birds? You would listen to the bird chirps, and like a Disney movie, you would sing along with the humming of the mockingbird and the blue jays, and that's why now you're on television singing for America's Got Talent. Everyone's in there crying, oh, he's such a beautiful story. And that's why all these politicians, they got to do the exact same thing. Especially on the left, if everything you're looking for is just it's not how smart you are, it's not how accomplished you are, it's about how unprivileged you were when you grew up. We don't care if you got the IQ of Einstein. What we want to know is a person who had no arms and legs that managed to claw their way into this hallway. We want to see people like John Fetterman. We don't want to hear that you're the smartest, brightest, most successful, best at running things, have the best policies, have the best implementation. What we want to see is a guy who survived a stroke where it makes him talk like he was just hit in the head with a baseball bat, where he's like the walking version of when a cartoon, when you get hit in the head and the big lump comes out and you're just seeing stars. That's the inspiring story that we like to see. It's not how smart or accomplished you are. It's the hardships that you had to overcome. We like seeing Wheelie Boy out in Texas. All right. It's enough on that. But anyways, so, same as Joe Biden's out there talking about all the kids and hairs that he liked to touch in pools and, all the hardships. It's all about the hardships. Well, apparently AOC, she's not from the Bronx. She's from a very a nicer area that's a little bit north of the Bronx. I believe it's Yorktown. But of course, she's still going, no, I spent some time in the Bronx. I'm authentically the Bronx. And then just another reminder of how dumb the Democrats are. But I mean, we're still getting like little tidbits out of the Kamala Harris campaign. Remember, spent, I think, what was it, 1.4, 1.2, $1.6 billion to not win an election. But Kamala Harris campaign staffers warned not to reach out to Taylor Swift, saying Doug Emhoff was handling it. And I like that, they're sitting down, they're preparing for debates, and the wild card is that they have people within the administration trying to negotiate with Taylor Swift if they can get her to show up to an event, not swing, pack out the seats so that they can get a couple more pictures as if there's organic interest in Kamala Harris. How much money do we have to spend to pack a stadium full of people who think that they're going to see a musical artist that isn't going to perform for them? Don't worry. Doug Emhoff is on it. All right, let's take a second. Let's plug another one of our sponsors, and then we'll get into more news stories. I'll take more comments. We're making things happen today. Sheathunderwear.com, promo code RYM. You'll get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. Believe me, I've made the mistake. I'm like you, a simple man buying Fruit of the Looms, buying simple underwear. And firstly, they don't last. You end up with holes in them. You end up needing to replace your underwear frequently. And if you're out exercising in the summer months, you are going to get that chafing between your legs. But lucky for you, I've got a loyal sponsor and I've got the solution. People in the comments, you can vouch for how wonderful Sheath underwear is, how much it makes everything smooth and slippery between your legs. I mean, having Sheath between fat thighs is like you just lubricated it up between there and you're friction free that you can move around in the hot summer sun all day long. I'll be hanging out with Bobby the Bank coming up in Colorado. Hopefully, we'll figure out getting to the Manitou Incline, which last time I really trained so that I could beat him up. This past year, I was a little more injured, but I'm going to go for it anyways. Sometimes it's good to go out there, challenge yourself physically, and realize how much of a fat fuck you've become. Anyways, go support Bobby the Bank. Use promo code RYM at sheath.com. Get yourself the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. All right, let's take a couple comments, and then we'll get into our next news story. John Popek. I find AOC to be pretty attractive. Does that make me gay since she's an Obama clone? I don't know. Probably not. Because she's got big, heavy tits, and I'm sure they made the augmentations before she was actually born. And so she was born female with similar genetics to Barack Obama. So it's not actually a dude who was then transitioned into a male. But, these are questions you got to ask yourself in the mirror. I don't know how many other dudes you find attractive to, give you a firm recommendation here. John Warning, I feel like an idiot. I've been thinking perverts were running things via bribery and blackmail. I was 100% wrong. I know. I apologize. Apparently, a lot of us got a lot of things wrong. But, Donald Trump was here to tell us why is anyone talking about the thing that was the top news story for today? Why would anyone even ask me this question? Why does anyone care? Why does anyone think it's relevant? And sometimes it's nice when Donald Trump can just get out there and clarify that we were all mistaken about a storyline, and then we can just move on with our lives. John Popek saw Owen Gregorian articles saying if Walz gets out of the Kamala shadow, he could be a front runner. Yeah. All right. Carrie Locke. Hey, what changed that YouTube finally sent me a push notification so I could be here live? Fuck yeah. Also, lady shits the bomb. Lady sheaths. You didn't say lady shits. You said lady sheaths. Let's keep it classy, everybody. Are the bomb as well. Even the classic underwear cuts are smooth. There you go. Bobby the Bank getting the lady recommendation that the sheath female underwear is solid as well. All right, let's take one more. Ambassador Saul, the Manitou Incline is awesome. Get it before sunrise drenched in IPA sweat and get some fizzy water next to Hell's Pizza. Last time I was there, I did not get the natural soda water. And you would think that if there was an area of the universe that had just natural soda water out of the ground, that would be the area that the Jews would claim as the Holy Land that they would kill Palestinians over. You wouldn't think it was over the Middle East. You would think that if there were seltzer wells, what is more Jewish than seltzer wells? I know that I'm in an area without any Jews when I go into the grocery store and there's no seltzer water there. And I go, all right, I'm one of one in this area that there's no demand for soda water. But the fact that there's natural just soda water wells coming out of the ground, and maybe that's the deal that we can cut with the Jewish people who are trying to still hold on to the Israel dream, the Zionists. We could be like, listen, we found a better Holy Land for you, and it's in Colorado where there's seltzer. Or maybe the good people of Colorado don't want to contend with a biblical heritage claim to the soda water in the ground. All right. RFK Jr. wants everyone to use wearables. What are the benefits and the risk? And I don't like this one, guys. I don't like this one. You're gonna put us all in wearables so that you know all of our health patterns all the time, and I get it. Government needs the data to figure out how autistic you really are. Government needs to know how long you're staring at your screen, how fidgety you get over little things, how often are you spazzing. It's a little spazzing watch where they see how often you spaz in a day, and then they correlate it to how many vaccines you got as a kid, and then we can figure out everyone's level of autism. And I mean, listen, there's always arguments for government implementing technology. It's a little bit like what we were talking with Palantir. Government could become more efficient. I did a whole episode of my Zero Hedge podcast on that. They can embrace AI technology and become more efficient, but they could also become more efficient in terms of tracking us and everything that we do. And so, yeah, I guess slapping a tracker on every single American might give us better health data of all of their activities. But then they might also find out that you toss and turn too much in your sleep and now your insurance rate's going up, or that you're skipping on leg days. Or if you're, in my case, you might get constant warnings that you've drinking too much coffee and Zins and that you're at risk for high blood pressure and a heart attack. And I'm just like, that's called trying to get through an airport. You got a better way of trying to get through an airport? How do you guys feel about RFK, at least? But, you know, he's a little bit like Donald Trump, wild headlines, and then you see what he actually acts on. Nor do I think you're going to tie it to everyone's taxes? And then you find out whether or not people are, and then how soon until that's also location tracking? How often, how soon till that transitions to facial tracking? Hey, listen, we got healthcare costs in this country that we've got to start keeping down. And so if you're not going to do your part in exercising and taking care of yourself, then then we're slapping more fines on you. And listen, you know, I'm a speeder, all right? I drive aggressively, safely, but aggressively. And I get tickets in the mail all the time. Maybe all the fatsos, every time they eat an afternoon donut without going for a jog, send them a ticket in the mail because they're driving up all of our insurance rates. All right. Got a couple more quick articles for you. This one is not parody. If you want to talk about something that I thought was parody, hundreds of thousands of children have type 1 diabetes. Now there's a Barbie who has it too. And there you have it, everybody. It's type 1 diabetes Barbie. If you thought that the woke world was over and celebrating the weak, it's not. It's just rebranding, and some of the toy brands or maybe this is post-tariffs. Post-tariffs, the only toys that they can afford to make are the ones that are diabetic. And honestly, firstly, you know, if you got a kid with diabetes and you're trying to give them a diabetes doll, this is the wrong doll. You should have a doll that the clothing doesn't fit and the leg keeps falling off. Or instead of a purse, the doll's just holding its own leg so that the kids are made aware of the fact that your diabetes is a serious disease and you better take care of yourself and you're probably not going to look this good and live a normal life. Do you really want to inspire the kids out there that aren't diabetic to go for type 2 diabetes thinking, hey, I can have one of those Barbie monitors too? And look at how authentic this doll is. For the kids out there living with diabetes, look at the nice little it's almost like a sexy belly button ring, but instead it's a glucose monitor. But just showcasing it, no matter what your problem is. You can probably never, and I like this idea of diseased Barbie dolls. Let's go with Cancer Ken having his last week of fun out on the beach, taking some Molly and sleeping with the last sluts before he dies. All right. Now, here's just some random things that, there's no reason to notice, but I did notice. And have you guys, I just, for some reason, I was watching some news thing and it actually showed the White House press briefing room. And it's impressive how many people they pack in there. It's almost odd that they have such small rooms for important things. And I do kind of like that everyone who's in that room knows how easily replaced they are. It's like everyone in that room is giving the other person a lap dance. It's like we physically do not have space for you right now. That looks like a New York City subway car. And just letting everybody know, hey, listen, you asked one wrong question and you might lose your seat in this room because we literally do not have a seat for you. All right, and then here was the other one that I noticed is, so first is dinner meetings are weird. I already have it. You ever have this when you're supposed to meet up with someone for dinner and it's never at the right time for when you're actually hungry? And so then you start doing the math in your head of, well, I don't want to be at this dinner party and now just being a fat fuck where I'm completely not hungry and just eating, or I don't want to be annoyed and then like having to eat something I'm not even hungry to eat. And then sometimes you go the other way where you're like, all right, I know that I'm doing that dinner thing, so I better not eat lunch or whatever. And then you're there and they either don't have food or it takes so long for the food to come out. You're just completely starving and miserable. I mean, I've just had this in my own life, not in front of television cameras, where you're trying to figure out peak hunger for the setting that you're going to be in so you don't blow the opportunity to socialize while eating food, but at the same time, you aren't completely starving. And so the idea of sitting down, I guess, for a dinner meeting where all the plates are in front of you and then you're going to field questions for an hour plus without food in front of you, I guess I'm saying I marvel at the at the way that these people are able to operate. Or maybe did they have a whole dinner meeting beforehand where they did like the hors d'oeuvres in the earlier room and then they go in there and they're like, all right, we're just going to sit with the plates in front of us and field calls from weird angles. The thing that most caught my eye, and I get that this is just one random picture, but the way that Netanyahu's kind of turned around looking at the camera there, it kind of feels like the Bernie Mac show or the Titus show or even The Office where characters look directly into camera and they talk directly to the audience. And he's just got that look of like, watch this. Look at what I'm going to do with these suckers. It just looks like the lizards that are watching the show. He's actually the main character in the sitcom. And he's just looking at you like, I got this. Just watch what I'm going to do right here. Just watch and observe. And Donald Trump's got that little twinkle in his eye where he's like, I thought I was good at blackmail, but this guy, he's so good. And then, the other thing is Netanyahu showing up and nominating Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, there's just something funny about nominating the guy that you bomb something with. That's how you get peace prizes, is by bombing things, and that you want to celebrate the bombing that he did on your behalf somewhat together. The bombing that we did together and the murdering of other people, we deserve a peace prize. Well, I don't, but you do. Because then it also validates what you're doing for me. And so out of the goodness of my heart, because of the favor that you've done us in bombing things for peace, I would like to nominate you for a Nobel Peace Prize. All right, we got a couple more articles. Let's plug one more sponsor, last sponsor of the show, Fenixammo.com. I know all of you guys are out there. You like going out there. You like shooting your guns. Luckily, I've had some fans over the last couple weeks take me out shooting some guns. I don't personally own a gun because I live in Connecticut and I'm lazy. And I mean, the amount of things I have to deal with. But I'd like to own a gun. I'd like to just live in a different area where I could just purchase some guns and, have a gun safe right by my bed, lock and loaded, ready to go. I'm all for, but lucky for me, I've got some good fans. I hang out on some nice porches, and people, they got some fun arsenals, and they take me shooting. And so if you're one of those people and you enjoy owning your gun, you enjoy shooting your gun, I recommend getting your ammo from Fenixammo.com, official ammo provider of the Run Your Mouth podcast. Go stock up, got great quality stuff, and they will not sell to the United States government. All right, let's take a couple comments here, and then we'll cover the last few topics, and that will be our episode. Bullet, strange thing is they built an entire theater, Joe Biden fake office, and never use it. That's true. Ambassador Saul, Rev. Paula White, talking in tongues. Nothing creepy about it. I don't know what you're talking about, but send me the link. Cousin Fat, Connecticut taxes are brutal. Get out of there. You're not wrong. All right. Trump signals deference to farmers on immigrant workers. Let me read this. This is from The Hill. Let's give this a quick read, and let's go full screen so I can walk over there and pretend like I'm literate and that I don't need glasses and I don't just have to squint at the thing. Here we go. Trump signals deference to farmers on immigrant workers. President Trump late Thursday signaled deference to farmers in the U.S. who employ migrants illegally in the country, aiming to shield some of them from his administration's deportation efforts. Once again, employ migrants illegally. We're not talking about the temporary work visas or otherwise. These are illegal migrants working on farms. Farmers, look, they know better. They work with them for years. You had cases where not year, but just even over the years where people have worked for on a farm for 14, 15 years, and they get thrown out pretty viciously, and we can't do it. We got to work with the farmers and people that have hotels and leisure properties too, Trump told the crowd at Salute to America event in Des Moines, Iowa. And there you have it. I mean, aren't you guys all super mad at Donald Trump? What about, all these jobs? They could be American workers. And why is this only true for farmers that have employed immigrant workers for 14 or 15 years? Those are American jobs. Those are American jobs on farms. Why are these jobs allowed to go to immigrants? These could all be American jobs. And why is it that the farm, hotel, and leisure properties? What about anyone else? What about a guy who's got a small business? What about a guy who's got a small construction business? Or whatever business, a lawn care business, or I don't know, a local restaurant. And he's had an employee 14, 15 years. So is it just because he wasn't able to get a meeting with Donald Trump and explain the problem of deporting the individual? Donald Trump's telling us that illegal migrant workers are actually important to the U.S. economy? Or that he doesn't care about your American job enough that he actually just is sympathetic to the migrant that's been there 15 years, that he does not care about you or America first enough to deport him? I don't know. How do you guys, you Trump, red-blooded, love Trump, whatever he does is the right thing because it's what he did. How do you guys square this with everything that you were saying about the importance of American jobs and the need to kick out all these workers? Is this an admission by Trump that some of these workers are actually good? And then how does this central policy work of Trump deciding which ones are good or which ones are bad? Is there some sort of an objective standard? Is there a reason why the farmhands get to stay and maybe the Mexicans that you're employing cannot? What's the standard here? What's the reason why these ones are important and why there isn't another business that could be helped by migrant workers? Or are some migrant workers actually good for the economy and some aren't? How do we make this determination? How is the central planning going to work, old Lord Trump? How do you make these determinations? Is there any standard behind it? All right. Got a couple more topics here. This one I thought was interesting, and I'm curious. People in the comments, you can shoot me an email, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. But basically, they are more aggressively going to be policing the ability of Chinese nationals to purchase farmland in the United States of America. And I think I agree with this ban, which is kind of uncharacteristic because even if you look at TikTok, I was of the opinion that our intelligence agencies and our, social medias are collecting this data. What is the danger of China having this data? And then the idea of, well, they distribute socialist or pro-China propaganda on it. Well, if that just turns out to be anti-Israel or anti-funding the Ukraine war rhetoric, is it bad for us to have information from other governments? And then when it came to Huawei or whatever, it was the same complaint of, well, they would have the ability to collect data. And then you got the same question. Well, my government's not really my friend and they're collecting my data. There was a little bit more of a question on critical, critical infrastructure that could potentially have Chinese like kill switches on it. So if they're for essentially building up our electricity gig or our 5G or other critical infrastructure that we're actually relying on, are we giving them an ability to basically undermine our government without going to war with us, which becomes similar to possibly just their manufacturing processes. And then maybe you end up in a similar argument to why tariffs are good, because they have policies of basically growing certain sectors that we become reliant on them, as opposed to doing that here while we need those critical goods. Listen, all interesting questions. I think on all the other ones, I thought that it was overhyped and overblown. On this one, I think considering what we just saw with drone warfare, and that in the past, you essentially needed to either fire missiles at a country or launch a ground invasion in order to, be on the ground and hit targets within a country. We're living in a new era of drone warfare, where if you can sneak drones into a country, then you can do damage that, I don't know, you guys might know more about military gear and military pass, but I would think we're in a new era of your ability to hit targets in a way that you otherwise could not have without actually having invaded a country. And so the idea of the Chinese government having access to farmland that's then close to military bases to possibly, be building up drones on, it does sound risky to me. So listen, I'm throwing it out there. Maybe you guys love the free market so much that you say the Chinese government coming in here and buying up assets like our farmland is beneficial to the market in some way because it props up the value of everyone else's property. And then if they actually, or maybe we just don't like the idea of government being able to purchase things at all, because it's a government, it's not private individuals. And when it comes to private individuals from China, you end up with a problem of, is it their money or are they actually, purchasing it on behalf of the CCP? Anyways, quick snapshot, first time seeing it, but that one strikes me as a sensible policy. And I don't really know what the strong upside is of letting people from, China be able to buy large areas of the United States of America or, resources here. But I'm open to arguments on that. First time I'm seeing it. So my snapshot is, while maybe that's, I don't even know why it wouldn't be in line, other than, I guess, the argument of that it empowers government to make policies and police the policies, which is a little bit of like why some of these wackadoodles don't like government enforcing the border in any capacity. But in terms of government policies, I don't know. This one seems sensible to me. Am I missing something here? All right. Let's take a couple comments. Let's see if there were any thoughts on that. Doc Termis, Porch Tour was a lot of fun in Raleigh. Check it out when you get a chance. Thank you. That was a great one. Always fun being poolside in Raleigh. Bullet, I'm less concerned about China having my data than our intel agencies. I understand. I get where you're coming from. Do you feel the same way about China owning land here? That you're like, our federal government owns land, so do I not care if China owns land? Because in my head, I do see it as more of a problem, but I'm open to arguments. I don't know why I don't listen to this more. So funny. Love Robbie the Fire. Thank you, sir. Please listen to more of Run Your Mouth. Knock on your neighbor's door. Let them know about our fun show over here. John Popick, no foreign country should be able to buy land, especially near bases. No other country would allow that. It just seems reasonable to me. Drakestone Milling Company. Exactly. I would be just fine. China paying me for data. Instead, the CIA and State Department. The octopus makes it where you can't do anything unless you're one of the what? What are you getting at, buddy? All right, let's take 2 more articles. Shoe removal rule for air travelers is dropped. Now, I've been in airports nearly every day for like the last 3 weeks, and I've yet to see this implemented. I've yet to have them not tell me to take my shoes off, but apparently, I guess the screeners are good enough now that when they're looking up your butts, when they're looking up your pee holes, they can also see within your shoes, and so you don't actually need to take your shoes off. And so I'm all for not having to take my shoes off, But what I am concerned about is having the same horseshit that I have with laptops, where now just every airport I'm on, some lady is yelling at me that I'm doing it wrong no matter what I do. And so if I decide to take my shoes off, you get that. You don't be taking your shoes. Don't put your shoes on my machine. Don't put that in the box. Put your shoes back. I don't want to smell that shit. And then you go to the next airport and you're just walking through the screener and they're like, why you got your shoes on, boy? Don't you know you got to take your shoes off when you walk through all my shit? You can't have your shoes on. You're like, whatever the policy is, can I just have consistency so that I don't have to know that they're wrong and want to fight them, but also know that I can't fight them? Just whatever the policy is, let's just make it consistent off the board so that every airport that I'm in, I know that mentally I'm right, and yet I have to hear them pretend like I'm the asshole for doing the exact same thing I just did in the last airport I was in. And then it's funny because you just ask them to be nice for clarification, and they even get mad at you for that. Where you're like, so am I supposed to? Why you ask me question? What? Like they just, doesn't matter what you do. It's like a drill sergeant where they're just pissed at you. All right, here's the last two articles. This is from the Wall Street Journal in the opinion section. And this was from today. They are already out there pitching that now is our best opportunity for war with Iran. And so let's go for the regime change because what we did is not good enough. Let me give this a read. All right, the perfect time for regime change in Iran. Remember, the thing's in remission, so why not totally kill the cancer? What does President Trump actually want to do with Iran? The week that the U.S. struck the country's nuclear sites, he posted on Truth Social that if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be regime change? MIGA. But since then, he has been pushing to end the Israel-Iran war. The instinct behind Mr. Trump's post was the right one. If unimpeded, Iran's jihadist rulers will rebuild their nuclear program. Iran's deputy foreign minister told NBC News on July 3rd, our policy has not changed on enrichment. To prevent Iran from achieving its ambitions, the U.S. should press its advantage and work openly with Israel and the Gulf states to undermine the regime. So according to the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump did not do enough. And this is our best opportunity to finish the job. The phrase regime change understandably makes Americans nervous. Since the Soviet Union's collapse, the U.S. has struggled to match military capability with coherent political purpose. Washington didn't define a clear political objective during its long Afghanistan campaign. The goal should have been to maintain an Afghan government in Kabul that would deny al-Qaeda and the Taliban a haven at a low cost to American allies. The U.S. objective instead became an impossible transformation of the country. It's no surprise this failed. So there you go. We just had bad objectives the last time, but this time we can pull it off. Compared with this incoherence, Mr. Trump's decision to strike Iran's nuclear program and engineer a rapid ceasefire looks like a strategic masterstroke. Tehran's nuclear program has always been about weapons development, and crippling it was the right move. But, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, Iran remains a dangerous threat. And the policy question is whether taking out that threat, deposing the current regime now rather than waiting it out. History suggests the time to act is now. So there you go. The Wall Street Journal does not buy Donald Trump's line that it's totally and completely and utterly destroyed. But this is a regime that always wanted nuclear weapons. And so now is our best opportunity for regime change as we've weakened them. Skipping ahead. If Iran is left to its own devices, there is little possibility of domestic transformation. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, still lives, as do many leading officials. The assaults on American positions in Qatar and Iraq are unlikely to be the end of a regime that regularly pronounces death to America. The only way to eliminate this threat is to eliminate its ideological source, the regime led by Ali Khamenei. And so there you go. The Warhawks are already back at it, saying what we need is regime change in Iran. All right, let's do one more. The Epstein conspiracy boomerang. And I'm not going to read this one. It's enough reading for one day. But essentially, the pitch from the Wall Street Journal is that Donald Trump is a victim of essentially the conspiracy theories that he floated in order to get elected. And now that he's in office, he has to be reasonable. Here, I'll read just this last thing. There's a lesson here for partisans who think they can ride conspiracies to power. They can easily boomerang on you once you're in a position to see the real evidence and then have to convince a public that doesn't trust anyone in power. Welcome to the rotten establishment, Mr. Patel and Mr. Benjinga. Or you can just have transparency. And if there is no conspiracy theory there, and you're seeing evidence that there is no conspiracy theory, you could share it with us. You could just show it to us. I mean, unless for some reason people are indicted or it makes people look bad, But then you're validating the conspiracy theory that if we give people honest, true information, then they might not like us. Well, what's the reason that we wouldn't like you? But if there's just perfect, good information that gets everybody off the hook, they all got a good alibi, none of them were there when it happened, well, then you could just share it with us, and then we go, all right, I guess we all had that one wrong. But they won't. They don't want to have transparency, because if they did, we'd all go, you can't do that. That wasn't very nice of you. Well, I'll just turn it to the kids at kindergarten that, someone hit you. You're not supposed to do that. I'm telling the teacher. All right, that's our episode. Thank you for hanging out. Guys, a lot of porches. A lot of porches coming up. I got 2 weeks of club dates, and then I'm back out on the porch, driving all the way up to West Virginia, to Ohio, and back. So come hang out with me, and then going to get some more dates up shortly. That's our show, porchstore.com. Come say hi in Denver. Hopefully get to do the Manitou Incline. Thanks to all its sponsors. That's our episode. I have no reason to talk anymore.